Good day to all of yous out there. Sunday, it's time to play some video games, am I right? So, what are your favorite video games and who are they published by? Nintendo, Sega, Capcom, Konami, Namco? Probably not Acclaim, right? Acclaim has put out quite a few shoddy games on older systems and have not gotten the best reputation. So a quick pro tip I would have to give everybody is, if the company logo has a rainbow on it, it's more likely to be shit than quality. But you know what? Even though Acclaim have bought and owned LJN, which are, if you watch the Angry Video Game Nerd, you know. I mean, might be hard to believe when I say I have 7 games in my collection, my personal retro video game collection from Acclaim, that actually are not half bad. I mean, a couple of them might be subpar, but today I want to keep this kind of brief. I want to talk about 7 Acclaim games from multiple platforms that are actually not terrible. And we're going to get started with a really neat one I have here. I'm just going to kind of reach over. I got a few NES games on here. First one we got is Iron Sword, Wizards and Warriors 2. Now, I got this one for a couple reasons. Number one, I've watched old video game commercials on YouTube, and this has by far one of the best video game commercials of the 1980s for the NES. I love how the guy just comes bursting in the kid's room and just hands him a copy of Wizards and Warriors 2, and he's like fighting stuff outside. Number 2 is this freaking sweet custom box art. Somebody actually went out of their way to make this and has like a backside and everything. So instead of having like the box like the original NES version does, they really went above and beyond and made this, like it even has a big logo on the side for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I know, some of these games are going to give me allergies, but even if this game is not typically that great, I wouldn't go as far to say it's a terrible game. I mean, to be honest, if there's one game in here that's slightly bad, well, not bad, but like below average, I would have to say this game right here. But like I said, the box art is really cool, and once in a blue moon, it's got like a cartoony, the dude on the cover here just straight up looks like Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger, so also, and then the game is like cartoony as hell. Like if you look on the back, it's just cartoonish all around, so you're just hopping from platform to platform. You collect stuff, typical like adventure platformer game. It's not based on a movie or anything, so maybe that's one of the reasons why this isn't a complete failure of a game. But also, the only NES game I have in the collection so far to have the original manual and a space for the cartridge. So this has some very lovely artwork. So if you're not really into average games overall, then probably best to avoid this one, but if you don't mind and you just want to get a good kick out of it and you can see some good things about it, then go ahead and pick this one up. For me personally, I figured it'd be an interesting addition, but probably know about this one, and probably the greatest beat 'em up on the 8-bit Nintendo, Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. These games totally beat the arcade ports into the ground. This one actually came on the NES Classic Edition and is a part of my collection where I'm trying to rebuy every single game on the NES Classic. This is a huge part of it. This was the only beat 'em up that they put on that system, and I have I feel like I'm a little better at this game than Double Dragon 1, which is another good beat 'em up, but is published by a different company. It is, I think it's debatably better than the first game. The first game's a classic. I was really happy to add that to my collection, but this one I cannot go without. Because I played this one a lot when I had the Classic Edition, and it's just overall a great, great game. A nice little side-scroller beat 'em up. Again, I remember again on YouTube I saw the commercial for this. It was awesome. Another great. Somehow Acclaim put out so many subpar NES games, and ended up having like some of the best commercials for them. But I mean, this one is definitely a quality title. And it's really no wonder they put this one on the Classic Edition, let alone that they didn't put the first Double Dragon game on there. And this might end up being in a future video. So I actually have the sleeve. This one is Tiger Helly by Taito, but it says Acclaim on the cartridge, so we know it's published by Acclaim as well. This one is a shoot 'em up. Again, I collect a lot of shoot 'em ups for the 8-bit NES. Another one that gives me allergies because out of all the shoot 'em ups I do have for the Nintendo, is this one is, again, pretty average. I wouldn't say it's not as clunky. Well, it's a little clunky. It's a little bit of a clunky game. The power-ups where you get those mini little helicopters, that's pretty nice. You get helicopters that shoot to the side. You get ones that shoot forward, so you kind of triple your firepower. It's a bit glitchy. Like, as you scroll, it will kind of fritz out a little bit. But music, I actually do kind of like the music. So it's a little pleasant on the ears, kind of rough on the eyes. It's a shooter, a little clunky, but again, we're talking about Acclaim games that aren't, and I'm going to sound a little bit hypocritical here, because this is Acclaim we're talking about. But don't get me wrong, ranging from good or okay to great games right there. How about some portable 8-bit power on the Nintendo Game Boy? Double Dragon 2 for the Game Boy. Very different game from the NES version. This is actually a port of a Japanese game that was different from Double Dragon, but they marketed it as Double Dragon 2 here in the West. Do I like it as much as Double Dragon 2 on the NES? Hell no. No, that's like as... I mean, I would love to try the Turbo CD version at some point. That one does look pretty convincing, but that is more of a straight port of the arcade game. It seems like as far as ports are concerned, I think the only one they genuinely got phenomenally right was the NES version. And that's not even a straight port of the arcade version. That's kind of a different game, like this one. It's a different game, but not a perfect game by any means. I mean, it's a little bit slower. That's the thing. It's kind of slow. Like, if you can remember when Castlevania went from the NES to Game Boy, it sucked. Like, I don't even like it. Like, the first game on the NES for Castlevania was great, and then it was incredibly slow on the Game Boy. Cover that in a future video. But again, sounding a little hypocritical here, this is not overall, it's not a terrible game. It's, again, pretty average. Some positive points about it are those body blows, like when you encounter an enemy lying on the ground and you press A or something, and then you could land on them. They didn't do that in the NES version, and that's really nice. Music's also, I think the music's also pretty nice as well. The stages are laid out pretty fairly. I think I made it all the way to the last stage, but couldn't bear to fight all those bosses again, so... Short game, but overall, another fairly average experience. Super Nintendo here. If you like your old school or computer ports, this one just might be for you. Populous, the god building game itself. And I've been thinking, what are some games that were ported to the SNES, the Sega Genesis, and the PC Engine? The fact that this got ported to the PC Engine alone is pretty incredible. I think the Amiga got a port of this game, the Atari ST. This is yeah, people were all over this game because you could build your own cities. My verdict is, I have no idea how to play this. I've played it for a little bit. You can put down land. You can add people. You can add symbols. I still have a lot to learn with this game. But it's one of those games where if you're collecting for the Super Nintendo and you want to get games that look, sound, and play like a Super Nintendo game instead of just a straight port of something, this is definitely one to pick up. And it is very surreal sounding. The sound effects are phenomenal. Overall, it's just one of those games where I don't know, I barely know anything about it, but it's one of those games you have fun trying to figure out. It's like SimCity 2000 or Mahjong on the Famicom. They're games I don't entirely understand how to play, but are fun trying to figure out how to play them. And if you're going to sit down and play this game, please be warned, there is no password saves, unfortunately. There are game overs. So trying to sit down and complete this is an absolute no for me, because this would take a long ass time to complete, but fun little... regardless, pretty good one to go with. I've went over before, but I'll go over it again. For the Game Boy Color, we got Bust-A-Move 4. So your second hint to seeing a pattern here. This is, so yeah, it's your puzzle game with Bubble Bobble characters and other Taito characters. Wink, wink, hint, hint. Better to play this one on the Color because this game was just straight up meant to have color. If you're playing on a Game Boy, you can still kind of tell what's going on, and I appreciate the initiative that they wanted people to have an option to play this on the OG Game Boy. I don't think they had to do that. If they made this a clear cartridge and made this exclusive to the Game Boy Color, I think that would have made a lot more sense because, it's easier to see the colors. It's easier to see where everything goes. There's balls that have different patterns, that have different tiles and stuff, textures. So you'll know more what you're doing if you play that if you play it on a Game Boy Color. And overall, between the Darius style stage selects and just the overall fast gameplay, this is definitely one to pick up. I passed up this one at first because it may look like a novelty title where it's just like, oh, it's just a filler game. But no, it is definitely more than a filler game. It's definitely worth checking out. If you really like puzzle games, highly recommend that one. 2 games, actually. 2 in 1. This is Bubble Bobble featuring Rainbow Islands. I love my Bubble Bobble, and Rainbow Islands is a very fun experience. So if you guessed that Acclaim has published a lot of Taito titles, you would be correct. You get a prize. And that prize would be finding out that they actually did more Rainbow Island ports than Bubble Bobble. This is what makes absolutely no sense. You have a game called Bubble Bobble. You title this Bubble Bobble, but you have 2 versions of Rainbow Islands. And the version of Bubble Bobble they included on here was an arranged version. You are not going to necessarily get the original arcade version like they did with Rainbow Islands. Why they didn't include the very original version of Bubble Bobble is beyond me. But if you're going to have 2 versions of Rainbow Islands on here, then why not have 2 versions of Bubble Bobble? They may as well could... Now, even if they switched out the title and called it Rainbow Islands and put featuring Bubble Bobble on the bottom here, that would have made more sense. But look at me. I'm complaining about the title of a video game. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about it, though. Otherwise than that, I enjoy this game overall. I enjoy every version of this game. It's still the Bubble Bobble experience. Rainbow Islands, both versions are phenomenal. Great arcade games. If you can get them on Arcade Archives as well, then do so. Or if you want to pick up this version for the PlayStation, these 3 games get like the Namco Museum style cutscene at the beginning. And I gotta get a kick out of this. It asks, are you ready to go retro? On a retro video game collection. That's hilarious. So overall, this and I think Acclaim handled the Bubble Bobble license fairly well. I'd say some of the best games in the Acclaim games that I've talked about so far were the Bubble Bobble themed titles and definitely Double Dragon 2 on the NES. The other ones are overall pretty average. Not bad games, again, but average. So those are every single Acclaim games or Acclaim licensed games I have in my collection so far. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys. And see you next time. Have a good day.